Hello, everybody. Welcome to the end of the season, and that means another commentary from the good folks at Did You Know Anime. My name is Mike, and with me tonight I have my good friend, confidant, fellow co-writer, John Lobo.
No, but really, what year is it?
And for eagle-eyed viewers out there who have been watching this season, we have a new person with us doing commentary, but certainly not a new person to me and John, longtime friend, Wes Vaughn. Welcome, Wes.
Thanks for having me. How's it going?
And we're going to take you through season 6, right? Season 6?
I believe so. At least that's... If we're wrong, we're all wrong together.
Works for me.
Did you know that the Band of the Hawk were based on real people?
Heck of a note to
Miura,
start a season on.
said that when he was in high school in the 80s, one of the things boys his age were obsessed with was how well friends ranked amongst each other. For boys,
It's kind of wild, like,
about consoling
I remember when we were first talking about doing this video,
the other guy
and
but to break
the
away
thing that usually happens a lot with Did You Know Anime is the thought process usually goes,
some sort of goal.
hey, can we get that guy? Oh, I don't know. Let's try. And that's how we got Kevin.
We had a Corcus too.
Boy, you hear that, just that little bit of that song, and I'm sure anybody else out there who's watched 97 Berserk, it's triggering, but I want to say in a good way. Most of Berserk is like that. It's like I think this is in a good way, even when it's not.
Suicide Island author Koji Mori as his ultimate rival. According to Miura, the two even co-authored a one-shot for Weekly Shonen Sunday. While Miura was the self-proclaimed
Yeah, this was
Yellow
particularly
Ranger,
fun, and this was, yet another very entertaining use of your Photoshop skills here, Mike, and just hearing about like boyhood or adolescent friendships from the guy who wrote Guts and Griffith is just inherently fascinating. I mean, any fact about Kentaro Miura, rest in peace. Boy, if we'd have known at the time, doing this, that so many years in hindsight, how we'd be looking back at this. But yeah, it just makes it that much. Every time I hear that, it's fascinating to me, and it's funny in a way.
Manga and video games. One series of video games in
How sometimes with guys, it's like, oh yeah, your best friend is just like that kind of surviving middle school vibe. It's like, yeah, but something happens that week. It's like, okay, now we're worst enemies, but then later we might fight, and then and then we're like, all right, what do you want to do for lunch? What do you want to do after school?
While he is in the Berserker army, both series feature a younger blacksmith.
One of the things I wanted to point out in that last part was Koji Mori was somebody who I found not even looking at stuff for Berserk. I read Suicide Island and I kept up with it for a while. And then when I found out when we were doing research that him and Miura were so close, I'm like, of course.
Was during the Dark Souls 3 demo showcase where series director Hidetaka Miyazaki referred to the wielding of the great sword like that of Guts from Berserk, and the other was in passing in the
It also goes without saying, like,
Works book, where Miyazaki referred to
Dark Souls, Demon Souls, the whole nine, everything, literally, very literally would not exist without Berserk. Like, the guys at FromSoft pretty much just looked at Berserk and was like, let's make that a video game. In the same way that Konami, was it Konami, right, who did Clock Tower, or Capcom, looked at, was it like Phantasmagoria or whatever that one movie was, and was like, let's make Clock Tower off of that.
Yeah, it's really fun tracing the lineage in that way. Something like Dark Souls, which I've only waded my toes in. I'm very casual in the gaming department, so that kind of thing just wrecks me. But absolutely. And then I probably said this in previous commentaries, but for anyone interested out there looking for some reading, I was doing that myself, going to Michael Moorcock, and so that's another case of like Berserk is so unique, but you go back and you see some of that kind of creative lineage, and it's really cool. It's really cool just kind of looking at things in a new light, or looking at things in hindsight in that way.
Statements like this, as well as the incredibly long hiatuses, have made many question both Miura's physical and mental health. However, many of these things are simply rumors. A number of these hiatuses have often coincided with releases of other projects. During the longest break, Miura released a new manga called Gigantomachia.
Has anybody in here read Gigantomachia?
Nor have I.
I have not, unfortunately.
Of production. At Anime Expo 2016, Berserk 2016 producer Kurosu said that Miura's been involved.
This was fascinating because,
from the script
like
all the way
like
to
somebody out there, I'm sure
the
we see. I keep forgetting. Is it 2014? I keep wanting to forget, and it's just one of those things where you're like, I'm sorry to anyone involved that really worked hard on it, but you especially when you see something like 97 Berserk, and then you see we had some films, and we had some it's a quote unquote new era, turn of the century, and you had some 3D incorporated a little bit in there, but then you get to like 2014 and you're just looking for an explanation, and you see these kind of these like a little bit of that, saving face, or that like, oh well, Miura was involved from, see, you can't be too bad at us, and it's just like, but see, I'm all for calling a spade sometimes.
Thanks for watching. Did you know anime? The anime
Yeah, well, and it's also just kind of wild because Berserk 2016 and 2017 had regular, normal animated intros, and then you get to the series and it's this horrendous 3D CG, and you're like, what? Why didn't you just do the whole series like that?
Well, it really stands out in the scenes where they have 2D traditional animated characters standing or talking alongside 3D rendered characters. That's when it gets really fun.
We hope you've enjoyed
Also, already at the end here, I checked out the album I bought, the one that Kevin's talking about here, and anyone who's watched the dub of 97, the outtakes of 97, and knows that Kevin has a beautiful voice. I mean, that's just undeniable, and so he really is a great singer, and I would highly recommend it. I'm not just saying that.
Finish to start again. I hope you'll check it out on iTunes or wherever you find music, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
I think he's actually released another album since then, too.
For an EP release called It's Only Life. It'll be 4 amazing new tracks, and I'll be sure to put it up on my website.
I like how he does Griffith through the whole video, and then he gets to this, and you can actually hear a little bit of excitement in his voice when he's talking about the music.
I think you did the heavy lifting this one, Mike, because I'm also I'm not familiar with Cardcaptor Sakura personally. Of course, I've heard of it, and rest in peace, Zach. Speaking again of looking at things in hindsight so many years later.
Yeah, I have always had it just grabs me whenever it's like, oh, this had a different dub somewhere over here, or this was produced this way, especially with the stuff that was done by 4Kids and Nelvana, just because it's such a point of contention with people. But some of these shows, like Cardcaptor Sakura, it was kind of crazy because you have to make sure that you're getting the voices right, or the episodes right, and make sure all that's right, and This is actually a cool fact right here.
destroyed it in cells, which was unheard
The
of.
fact that a subtitled only release
Second dub known to
sold more than the one that was on TV. It's kind of wild.
Zoom Entertainment. Also distributed by Pioneer, this dub featured different voice talent like Carrie Walgren as Sakura and remained uncut and faithful to the
And then the movies were done by a completely different dub cast as well.
confusing fans. Even though Nelvana had nothing to do with the second movie, Cardcaptor Sakura Movie 2, the sealed card, their infamous editing of the series did create an
Can you imagine if they did something like that with Pokemon or Digimon, where like the main series is voiced by these people, and then you get to like Pokemon the first movie, and it's completely
It's so funny to
different.
imagine that because it's just like,
and nothing card.
I mean, I think we covered kind of a similar thing with like Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's funny when that
That's
happens,
right.
and it is so jarring. Of course, if you're used to a particular cast and you get to somebody and it's just like, no, what? Who is this?
Cardcaptor Sakura? Some of the titles thrown around were Cardcaster Sakura and Cardcharacter Sakura. In an interview in the Cardcaptor Sakura Memorial Book, a number of Clem staff talked about the creation of the title. Head Clem writer Nanase Okawa said, Nikoi came up with the title Cardcaptor Sakura. We had decided on it being Card Something Sakura, but I just couldn't come up with that something. We were really close to the deadline when Nikoi suggested, how about Cardcaptor Sakura? Oh, that's it, I said.
This is kind of a funny thing too, you know, when people think of creators and creative whatever, you know, you see these really big franchises or these really popular series, and it is a creative process. It's not just like something that came to you that was super divine, you know, like it's a process, and they didn't just immediately come up with Cardcaptor Sakura, you know. It's like they had to
I
think about
we were
it, you know.
saying this probably with Durarara of, you know, of whether it ends up being something that silly or not. I think that is kind of always surprising, probably to people, how you wouldn't think that would be this last minute thing, but oftentimes it is this kind of you'd think that'd be the very first thing. You know, people think there and back again by Bilbo Baggins, and they picture him, you know, writing there at his desk with his quill pen, and it's like, you know, all right, here we go, and you know, it's just with stuff like this where you know, when you're dealing with a large scale production or something like that, it just doesn't always work that way.
Was often used by the staff to push both their own boundaries and the boundaries of their readers. In the aforementioned memorial book interview, Okawa was asked about the dynamic of including same-sex and other relationship dynamics in the series. For Cardcaptor Sakura, and I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but I wanted to write something that minorities would feel comfortable with. Depending on your point of view, Tomio-chan's feeling for Sakura could be considered dangerous. So think of how Sakura-chan acted.
Dangerous.
For example, when she finds out that Charan was in love with Yukito, she didn't look at him strangely.
It makes you think of old Ben Kenobi, well, from a certain point of view.
Maybe it's too much to hope that the younger readers will understand all of that, but I do hope that they'll understand a little bit by looking at Sakura-chan. Thanks for watching. We're Did You Know Anime. The anime. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and share this video with all other card captors out there. Hey guys, my name is Misty/Connexia.
He was super cool to work with. Got everything to me on time. Was really nice. And you know, I know that sometimes when working with somebody who, you know, English is not their first language, because he's from Quebec, I'm pretty sure. The French-speaking part of Canada. He did a great job.
It's nice to deal with nice people, isn't it?
Oh man, I love this episode.
Did you know? There are shows that are anime knockoffs, but like merchandise is nothing new to Western anime.
Hey, I know those series. So, the idea of the knockoff anime stuff came from, you know, when I was doing stuff for unreleased anime, one of the things that would pop up from time to time was these series that were very obviously taken from places like Korea or China or I guess Hong Kong. And it was obvious that like what they were getting at was trying to be this particular series. Like Super Kid is very obviously trying to be Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. And I didn't have anything at the time when I first started doing the unreleased anime stuff, but as time went on, more and more stuff started to get unearthed and talked about. And Super Kid, ironically enough, did not have a lot of people talking about it, which is weird because, some of the anime, quote unquote, that get talked about, had way more coverage, but this one, Super Kid, did not. And then I found the connection, the fact that Ocean dubbed it. It was just like, I gotta talk about this. Like, this is something that I think would be really cool to show to people.
Definitely, and I think I recall some people, probably in the comments or elsewhere, pointing out accurately that, like, well, but Dragon Ball itself is based on Journey to the West. Yes. However, there are other adaptations and even, animated anime of Journey to the West, or loosely, or however it's based on that. But that doesn't mean that your cast is gonna literally look like the cast from Dragon Ball, from Akira Toriyama's take on it. And so it's one of those things where it can get complicated and hard to follow. And so hopefully that came through here, is that, like, yes, Journey to the West. However, the characters looking like that, and it definitely was meant to be evocative of Akira Toriyama's work.
Eventually, TV Tokyo aired a revised version of the show in Japan, now called Train Heroes.
I also thought it was pretty cool that they were literally going to try and do something similar to Dragon Ball Z called Super Kid Z, but they were going to try and go legit and work with Japan, and it just fell through. I'm like, wow, that's... I mean, it must have made some waves if it got to that point.
A hostile alien threat bent on complete domination. To fight back, 6 fighters are recruited to pilot the series' signature transforming fighter planes. As soon as the first trailers were shown, calls of plagiarism were made.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens just as time goes on, with how anime is exported. What happens when it reaches certain country shores, like China's. Maybe China looking at producing its own stuff. You've got Korea. We outsource a lot from Korea. Japan sometimes outsources from Korea, so it's really interesting to see how things might change in the future, inevitably, a little bit, at least somewhat, and Japan having some struggles with that. What's been such a successful industry for them, a national industry, if you will, for so long, and you kind of see maybe some other countries are thinking, man, can we do that?
To close, the creators said that learning and imitation are inevitable in the development process, especially for the sci-fi genre, which is primarily future science, robots...
Also, trying to get this website to work was a pain in the ass. Because for whatever reason, it just did not want to load. It did not want to work, but I finally got it. They knew.
I saw like a tweet or something one time, and it was somebody saying, like, I don't remember, they were like 2010, like, haha, way back, this is so fun, like, look at what the internet used to look like back, look what YouTube used to look like then. And then it's like, way back now, it's like, oh god, this is, please, this is the only way I'm gonna have proof that this blog from 2018 ever existed, please be up. And it's just like, yeah, I think we can relate a little bit to that.
Known to some as Captain of Cosmos, to others as Jonny Destiny Space Ranger, and to even
Jonny Destiny Space Ninja. I would buy that on Blu-ray.
Amalgamation of original and obviously lifted content and characters. The movie's main
I gotta say, I'm legitimately surprised. Not only that this movie made it to DVD, but the fact that, like, a lot of these series just haven't made the transition to, higher formats. Because, I mean, obviously there's the whole point of this video is, like, showing that they basically took from Japan in a very, very unsubtle way, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily preclude them from being able to put that on like their own streaming services, or maybe they do have it on their own streaming services. Who knows? We just don't know.
I think maybe now, I mean, we probably talked about this with like JoJo's many years ago. Like, I think now, you know, the idea of something being an ocean away isn't as much of it like, they'll never know, don't worry about it. So maybe now it's much more of a like, you know what, let's just, if the companies that did it are even around, are like, let's just move on. And but who knows? It'd be great to see someday. I'm proud of a lot of episodes, but this one. Well, at the risk of it being on recorded here, but it's just like, man, this one might be my personal favorite. I mean, I'm so proud of our work on it. Kind of like the Ava one. I approached the script with a healthy fear of like, this has to be perfect. Like, I have to get everything, like every T has to be crossed and all that. And then, of course, again, we were like, oh, wouldn't that be just a dream if we could, who are we going to get to narrate such a legendary installment? And, Wendy was gracious enough to do that. And it just, I mean, it's oh, man. And then this scene here, we mentioned to you, Wes, we won't say the specific names or titles or anything, but Jet standing in line with all these kids there, because Wes is pretty tall, folks, and so we made that kind of an inside joke of like, we thought of that scene when we thought of Wes doing that, trying to do some outreach to somebody at a convention.
Yeah, standing in that line at that convention to try and line up voice talent for a potential episode. I wish I could have been on the outside looking in, just because there was. I have no doubt it was hilarious to look at me standing amongst a bunch of children that came barely up to my waistline, and there was a lot of parents giving me the stink eye, that's for sure.
I also just want to point out for that line that the fantastic Wendy Lee said about chicks dig giant robots, that was unprompted. I did not ask her to do that, and that was not in the script, but I got that back in the voice lines, and I nearly lost my shit because I was like, oh my god, because I love Megas. Megas is one of my favorite series ever, so getting that was fantastic.
I haven't watched that in a long time, but I loved it too. Wes, you caught Megas years ago, didn't you?
I did, but I have not watched it in a very long time, much like you, John, but love to go back to it someday, and I mean, hey, she said it totally unprompted, so had to go in the video.
That went in a Gundam video or something too somewhere, didn't it? Chicks dig giant robots, like.
It did. I put it on the blackboard thing that was behind Tomino.
So now it has kind of there's another kind of inside joke, but if you're able to, I don't know where it would even be now, but like, watch Megas XLR, please.
Another series that needs to get put on Blu-ray.
Bebop is just one of those series, it's such a mishmash of so many things, and I'm so glad it happened. I'm so glad that Watanabe, at least among anime circles and probably beyond, in a lot of film circles, is a household name now, and just new wave, French new wave, new Hollywood, jazz music, and you've got just this. it's always fun to hear from people like, why do they like Bebop, or why do they think Bebop was successful? And it's tough to pin down, to any one thing, but I think we'll get to it at the end here. That Watanabe quote, I think, pretty much sums it up as best as anything could.
In turn inspired Kano to create even more. So much more, in fact, that she would regularly.
And now, as of this recording, it's not out yet, so I haven't seen it, but we're hearing about this, Netflix giving it a shot, live action, and apparently, I think Yoko Kanno has been brought on for I think she's doing, original compositions for it. So I hope that's the case. That at least will make me, for sure give it a sincere, good faith effort to, try once it comes out.
Surprise that Cowboy Bebop is continuously praised for its uniqueness. In fact, Watanabe himself has been asked numerous times about concerning trends in the anime industry, particularly that it is becoming increasingly more and more insular. When asked what
Great final quote here.
Coming into the industry, he replied, "If you want to create animation, it's important to watch a lot of things that aren't anime. If
Some
you
great
don't,
editing there.
they'll
Just
all do the same as
Spike,
what
like,
you
what are you
want.
talking about?
It won't be easy.
It is counterintuitive, but I think that's true. Whether you're doing music, whether you're doing, writing, whatever it is,
Thanks for watching. Did you
eclectic.
know
That's
anime?
good.
Anime trivia resource.
Experiment
Be sure to subscribe on
and try
YouTube.
things out, and
Share this video
I
with
think it'll
all
make
the
your
other space
whatever
cowboys
creative
and
thing you're doing
cowgirls out there.
better for it.
I'm Wendy Lee. You can follow me on Twitter at WendyLeeVO and on Facebook.
And thank
at
you,
Wendy
Wendy, the lovely Wendy Lee, and it's just is not just vocally but behind the scenes, just an amazing talent. I guarantee you, well, maybe not for some of the younger folk, but I guarantee you, one of your favorite anime out there. She's, she had a hand in making that happen.
See you, Space Cowboys.
Are you saying rolled, John?
I saw something just earlier today about like when the first Kingdom Hearts came out, and I went, no, that kid. So I think I am saying that, yes.
The title of Tenchi Muyo was inspired by Thomas the Tank Engine. Thomas the Tank Engine came to Japan in 1990.
Can't escape it, boys.
and became
Ain't no
widely
use in
popular
trying.
after having a
Once again,
brief
it's
errant
Tenchi
slot
Muyo.
behind one of the country's most popular children's shows,
And trust me, I've tried.
This is
Oh my
according to
God,
the
have I
officially
tried.
licensed AIC book, Tenchi Muyo Ryoki, book on deconstructing the 101 mysteries.
A lot of people,
As the
when they watch an older series of anime or any series of anime that we do, there are a lot of series that are very dense. Like Bebop has a lot to it and it's very dense, but Tenchi Muyo is dense in a way that no human being ever really understands until they try to jump into it.
As a matter of fact, the moniker for the OVA timeline, Ryoki,
Wes,
was
you
originally what the
had a
series
hand
was going to be
in the
called.
script on this
As
one, didn't you?
stated in the 101 Secrets, Ryoki was a temporary title that Kaji
I did. This did a large, or I did a number of things in this one. I think
going to be a comedy drama.
this was the first one I was
Tenchi Muyo
credited in as a writer, if I'm not mistaken.
has often been translated as No Need for Tenchi, but the name
Yeah, you helped a lot with the 101 Mysteries, especially because you had a copy, and so that was incredibly helpful.
Various series in the Tenchi Muyo franchise make references to other anime and pop culture. Tenchi in Tokyo, in particular, has a huge number of references. In episode 9, the teacher going on the field trip is El Hazard's own Mr. Fujisawa.
I think we've
another
got some of that
reference
coming
to
out
El
from
Hazard, which was made by Tenchi
Right
Muyo
Stuff,
director Hiroki Hayashi,
this summer,
can be seen in episode
2021.
14, where
El
Saka's
Hazard.
staff is similar to
If
main
you like
character
Tenchi Muyo,
Ikuto's staff. Photon
please
in the
consider
AIC
checking out El
series of the
Hazard.
same
It
name,
is
made by
different,
Masaki Kajishima, makes an
but
appearance in
a lot of
episode
that
22,
magic
also appearing
that
in episode 22 are
Hayashi's
characters
partially
Rin and Yuji
responsible for,
from
like,
Grown Up W,
that
which Tenchi
first
Muyo
OVA of
visual
Tenchi Muyo that
Hiroshi
everybody
Negishi also directed.
looks back on
Speaking of
fondly.
Negishi,
It's in El Hazard.
2014 miniseries I, Tenchi Muyo contains a plethora of shoutouts and parodies
Also, the
of
Blu-ray
men and
for El
violence,
Hazard Magnificent
films,
World
and
1 and
animes.
2 is
Tenchi Muyo
phenomenal.
itself has
beautiful.
been referenced by numerous other media as well. In issue number 1 of
Yeah, they had one for
the kanji for Tenchi Muyo can be seen as the
Japanese release, just the first one, and now I think RahXephon's doing 1 and 2 also on Blu-ray. So yeah, it should be great. Do recommend. There's another title I need to see, and this was a crazy fact that somehow flew in front of our radar, and you wonder how many other little things like that are sprinkled about in old TV series or something, because you're an animator working on something. It's kind of like like the old some of the old Disney stuff, what may or may not have gotten snuck, past tense, whatever, by some animator, thinking, what, nobody's ever going to catch this, and, not realizing we would have the capabilities we have now to pause things and look at things with such precision like we do now, to be able to see, like, individual frames of something. So that one's still a mystery. I don't know if that one will ever be solved.
I began working on Tenchi. Back in 1990, No Need for Tenchi was nothing more than an ongoing idle discussion between Kajishima.
And speaking of, there's another one, an example of, like, Tenchi Muyo. It's like, hey, like, what makes it to the screen eventually? Like, that, there was a process there. And so, like, these guys are remembering from years back, but you'll hear, like, Kajishima will say, like, oh, I pretty much had it all in my head since high school. Then Hayashi will be like, no, he didn't. We were, it was just us, shooting the breeze back and forth for, and then by this date we had this figured out and this, and so it's a process. People definitely have stuff in their mind ahead of time, and are inspired by things, and then it eventually becomes what we get to see.
I also just want to point out, I'm not using the back of Kajishima's head here for comedic effect. That is the only high-quality picture of his body ever. And it just so happens that it comically fits at a certain point in this video.
Yeah, he is just not photogenic. It's just not his thing.
The American soap opera I Dream of Jeannie, with Hayashi saying she was the original Ryoko. Tenchi opens the sealed bottle, and out jumps the cute witch Ryoko.
Now, I remember that part pretty well, because that page there was a scan of the 101 Secrets I've got a copy of.
The anime trivia resource.
It's pretty hard to forget Ryoko in a genie outfit, I guess.
All the other pioneers out there. This has been Sherry Lynn, the voice
That it is.
Sasami. Don't forget to check
And of course, shout out to Sherry. She did a great job.
And follow me on Instagram and Twitter, both at
Absolutely.
SherryLynnVO. Bye for now.
I can't really. It's hard to picture Tenchi Muyo without her. But for whatever reason, speaking of, like, I think in, like, Tenchi in Tokyo, like, Wendy Lee ended up being Kione, and it's all kinds of behind the scenes reasons on why that might happen. But she was great as Sasami and Kione, and Wendy was great as well.
After some time in pre-production, the staff at TMS realized that making
Man, I remember we finished watching Megalobox, and it was just like that show, Megalobox, was one of the best new anime series I've ever seen. Like, obviously, props to Yo Moriyama, because I hope that man gets to direct whatever he wants for the rest of his life, because he is one of... I'll say right now, I think he's the best anime director living today, period. As far as, like, coming up, obviously nobody can touch the Miyazakis and the Annos, but, like, Moriyama having this as, like, his first series and doing a phenomenal job. Like, the end of each episode was so perfectly ended and cliffhangered. You wanted to just go through the whole thing immediately. And this part right here, I remember saying to John as we were watching the series, when you saw Yuri, I was like, I didn't want to say it, but I was like, he looks like Kawajiri's characters. Like, he looks like Benton from Cyber City. And then when they did that interview with Moriyama, and he's like, I took it from Cyber City. I was like, I knew it. I knew it was him. Like, I knew he did that. Like, it just, it was such a cool moment.
Yeah, when watching this series, my initial reaction and what I felt was just like, I needed this. Like, it felt like a recharge. I just hadn't seen, it'd been a while since I'd seen a current anime that just, really, I just really enjoyed that much and was just so impressed by, like you said, the direction and everything about it, I mean, Moriyama must have done something right because got a season 2 out of it. I have still not seen that as of this recording, but I really, really want to. And I have high expectations, but I think it will meet them.
Instead of everything heading in the same direction, I think choosing.
I agree, and yeah, I haven't seen season 2 yet either. I didn't even know. I totally forgot it was a thing until a while, and then I wanted to wait until it finished to, go through it all at one time because I knew I couldn't just watch a couple episodes at a time.
For instance, the opening to Megalobox features a number of homages to Ashita no Joe 2's second opening. A certain bloody paint
Yeah, plus
sequence
that
from
just
Ashita no Joe
opens up a
appears
whole
as a
conversation
picture on
about,
the
like,
wall of the gear owner
access to
episode
things
3
nowadays.
Megalobox.
We got
The
so
cast
many
is
streaming
inspired by
services
Ashita no
now,
Joe
and
characters with varying levels of
everyone's
ability.
obviously going to want
Junk Dog is Joe's
kind of
blue
dibs
kid
on
with his fake
something,
name Joe,
and
obviously coming from the titular
so then,
character.
but that kind of
Junk Dog
presents
date
its
of birth
own
of
challenges,
Cowboy Bebop
taxes
is
something,
May
because I'll see
13th,
something, I'll be like, do I have that service? Nope.
exactly
Well,
100 years after the end of the
I
original
guess I'll just
Ashita
play
no
the
Joe
waiting game.
manga, which ended May 13th, 1973. Yuri is Toru Rikishi, while Yuri's nickname King of Kings is a reference to another Joe.
This series is the perfect example of how you reboot a series. It did everything right. It had a perfect amount of like cameos and callbacks, while at the same time being unique, and the pacing in this anime was perfect. Like, I can't gush about this anime enough.
Joe's design came from Johnny Depp in Crybaby. Yuri's design came from Mads Mikkelsen. Nambu's was Luis Guzman, Yukiko's from Eva Green, and Fujimaki from Benicio del Toro. To give the fighters their unique styles, Moriyama said that he based them on a number of real-world fighters. Joe's fighting technique was based on the boxing great Jake the Raging Bull LaMotta, while his movement and ring personality were
Also
based
just
on
want
the
to
term the
shout
real
out
is thrown around in anime to
the
describe
narrator
what it means
here,
to be a true
who
fighter, possibly in
some of you
reference to
probably
boxing
know, you
legend
should know,
Evangelion
Jax Blade.
Holyfield.
He started out watching Digino anime very early on and would always comment on videos. And as we kept going on, he kept doing his channel. And now, he's has a huge social media presence. He does the anime and workout. Can you do this workout? And he's a great guy. So, when we were writing the Megalobox script, I just remember thinking like he'd be the perfect guy for that.
To the thought of the team of 3.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, seeing his comments, and I'm glad he wanted to do it. And yeah, that's really cool. Just seeing like Uncle Iroh's prison workout routine or something, and being like, oh, let's give it a shot.
The anime trivia resource. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and share this video with everyone else who's not dead yet.
Oh, and the music of that series. Oh,
Getting fit and training like these
chef's
characters,
kiss.
then why don't you come subscribe to my channel, Jax Blade? And I'm honored that they invited me over here today to do this little narration thing. It was really fun to do. But on my channel, I do workout routines based on fictional characters and how to get bodies and physiques like them, and also help you lose weight, get in shape, and just.
Did they release the Megalobox soundtrack on vinyl?
That's a good question.
Do you know?
I want to say somebody has, but I would have to look at that. If someone hasn't, like, there's an opportunity.
Get on that.
So this was fun, and I like with when we doing Did You Know anime episodes, kind of like, nobody can really predict what we're gonna do next, and so this was one I want to say, what was that, 2013, 2014? I'm going off memory here, folks. When this came out, and I just happened to watch it, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was funny, and so then it kind of just turned to like, well, I wonder if we can we can do an episode on it. That's the process. It's like, can we do something on this? Can we uncover enough good stuff, and then we go for that. Then we get to that stage that Michael said, like, could we get so and so? And so this was one that it took a little more digging, but there was definitely some cool stuff to be had, and I think we talked about this before, Mike. It's kind of like, I like that some older anime now, in the era when you had to like have a magazine subscription to really keep up with current anime and anime fandom and stuff. So I'm glad that stuff is getting kind of renewed appreciation. But then there's kind of stuff of this era that kind of, even if it's beloved or people enjoy it, like it almost gets forgot about after like 3 years, and I kind of felt that way with this one. I kind of felt like I was like, no, there's some interesting stuff here. Or you go looking for something, and you're like, you're almost like, why hasn't somebody logged such and such by now, or what have you, just complaining about doing my job, researching this here mostly, but.
My one little connection to this series is something coming up. That one fact, but on the thought of like series getting forgotten, that was one thing with this series that, if you're somebody out there who translates stuff, or is a super fan of something, please, talking about Wayback Machine, please do not delete your stuff. Put it up on Reddit, put it up in some kind of verifiable way that's easy to do, because something that happened with Watamote was, this one group of people were translating this, and they really loved Watamote, and they said, oh, we're only going to have it up for 4 months, and then they just nuked their site, and it was just like, why did you do that? And so, the process of verifying a lot of the stuff that they had put up and that other people had, linked back to from places like Reddit was infinitely harder to verify. We did verify it, but it was just like, oh my god. But this one, I remember being around, not on 4chan, but knowing people who were on and seeing this all go down in real time, and the connection to her, and seeing Tomoko pop up in, threads. And it was just so wild to me that, this was kind of something that, now that we've had, the stock market thing happen with Reddit and all that, the idea of a collective group of people, a single website, having the kind of power to be able to be like, no, we're going to make this really popular and make it a lot of money. And the 4chaners bought, an absurd amount of copies, and it, made such an impact that it got all the way back to the author and referenced a meme that they made, which is wild.
That really is. I'm glad you remembered all of how that went down, because I remember tracing that for this, but it's been years, and I was just like, yeah, how did that all go down? But yeah, it's what a time to be alive.
And if you want to hear more of my obnoxious voice, then go check out my channel at Gao Gaiking the Great VA and all my other social medias where
Gao Gaiking, I was not familiar with their work until like this was one we were kind of literally like, who could we get to narrate this? And so did a great job. And if you're doing like YouTube voiceover or whatever kind of thing, do what you want to do, obviously. But if you're looking to maybe stand out a little bit, consider like, he just did a couple funny things dubbing over Watamote footage, and I found it, and one, I recall it being funny. I don't remember exactly what happens. I'll have to look it up. But then 2, we went, hey, do you want to narrate this? And there it went.
A number of names throughout the series are from the Nahuatl.
RahXephon is a series that I ended up getting into after Evangelion. Or actually, no, that's not true. I got into RahXephon first, and from RahXephon I went to Ava. And so RahXephon has always had kind of a special place in my heart, and it's a great series. So I knew that I always wanted to do something on it just because, of stuff like this, the kind of like Mayan and Aztec connection that the series had. And much like I was talking about before, there's a deceptive amount of information and stuff to dig into with RahXephon. But the most important thing, or I guess let's just say the biggest thing, is that RahXephon was always looked at as an Eva clone because it came out in the wake of Evangelion, and you had series like Brain Powered and Better Man and all basically Eva clones. That's what they were named. But Izubuchi was somebody who was, like buddy with Anno and the guys and gals at Gainax. And so, they all came up together. So it wasn't like Izubuchi looked at it and the studio was like, here, make an Eva clone. It was Izubuchi was wanting to do something similar because Izubuchi and Anno had similar interests. They both loved Raideen. They both nobody I don't think loves Ultraman as much as Anno, but Izubuchi got the chance to make his version of that with RahXephon, and I think he did a phenomenal job. And one of the things I really wanted to emphasize in this video, and I think most people got it, but it's not it's not like a competition thing. A lot of these people were working together. They were all in the industry together. And the crossover doesn't mean that one series is better than another. It just means that, the creativity of everybody involved was an easy thing to do because you had people going back and forth between each series. Some people were directing episodes in one series and another. And obviously there's, creative homages like that you go, okay. But the series, I don't think that takes away from the series at all. I think if anything, I honestly think it makes it stronger for it as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, and if you're just a viewer watching this, especially years ago, you can't be blamed for thinking like this is incredibly derivative of Evangelion. But like you said, it's fascinating to learn, this behind the scenes stuff. And I bet Anno was really happy for his friend, his colleague there, because it's kind of this weird thing, like depending on which one came out first, the other one got like a huge boost for that. So if you haven't seen it, or I think actually it just got, or it's as of this recording, they're going to be releasing like a Blu-ray set, a really nice Blu-ray set of RahXephon. Do yourself a favor and check that out. The animation is gorgeous. Why? Because after the success of Evangelion, the studio hits and stuff, you could pretty much go up to them and be like, yeah, it's going to be like Eva, and carte blanche, just a blank check. And so, and I could see an alternate universe where if RahXephon had come out first and Izubuchi was the one who was having to desperately get creative on they're running out of paint to paint the cells or whatever with the TV series of Evangelion originally, then it would have been a hit. And then then his friend Anno coming along, be like, oh well, I've got this thing I wanted to do, and it would have gotten carte blanche from the get-go.
Wrote and directed the RahXephon episode, The Children's Night. And Yoji no Kido, who wrote the screenplay for a number of RahXephon episodes, also...
I really want that Blu-ray set that Sentai is putting out, because it's a steelbook. It has the movie on Blu-ray as well. and it's using the new Japanese art on the Japanese Blu-ray. Looks so good.
And RahXephon, it's really cool with not just mecha, gorgeous animation, the music. The music,
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, man, and that of course is incorporated thematically in the show itself in so many ways. And then there's like even like painting motifs. I mean, it's an incredible work. So I highly recommend it.
Posed the question, but what happens when the imitation proves to be better than the original?
Who worked on the music in RahXephon?
I could not tell you offhand right now. That's embarrassing.
And share this video with all the other Moo out there.
I'll tell you who. A genius, that's who.
I want to say it was Yoko Kanno, but maybe that's just the opening. It's been a long time, folks, but those old memories seldom fade and bad habits die hard.
Man. Maybe I should just shut up for this one, because if people can hear the audio of the video and me at the same time, it's gonna drive them insane.
Hey, I know who narrated this video.
This was a pleasure. Thank you for letting me do this one, Mike. Because just kind of for just handling the script, and then just kind of I was like, yeah, well, can I do one? Can I just narrate it if we don't have anybody else? And you went, sure. And so here we are. And I guess I'll let you two comment more if you want, but I did want to say just a huge thank you and shout out to August Ragone, who is no stranger to Digino anime stuff, and this was one where just behind the scenes, I just was like, would you be willing to help point me in the right direction on a couple of these things, like, Sanshiro of the Skies and this early stuff. And I mean, I think he even said, like, the three brothers, and then, Ippei Kure being a pen name, like early in one of their careers, one of the other brothers, like, they were inking stuff or something, and they were just going by the eldest brother's name, so it was a nightmare to try to dig into this. So he was definitely the expert guide that I needed on this one.
He really needs to upload his brain somewhere before he dies, because his knowledge of this stuff, I think between the three of us talking here tonight, we can do pretty good on 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and obviously going forward. But there's a painful lack of people who have the kind of knowledge that August has for stuff going from 1980 backwards. Because we'll go, sometimes we'll go to August and be like, hey, August, do you know about this? And he just will be like, oh, it happened at this point, and this happened, and this guy knew this guy, and I went to dinner with this guy, and it's just like, August, what? And I mean, obviously, we verify all of this stuff to the best of our ability as well, and all that. But I mean, he just more people need to have some information on this stuff, because it's wild. If you just try and look at this stuff up on the internet, you're not gonna, we ran into a lot of that with Gundam too. There's just, because of how old the series is, 1979, 1978, it's shocking how little about these huge, gigantic franchises that influence the entirety of anime for decades to come just don't have that kind of, archival knowledge somewhere.
And on that note, thank you, Elizabeth Moran. I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I wanted that up on the screen anyway, so people could see that her book, the 30th anniversary guide that was so helpful in this as well. And I'm glad she did something like that. Like you said, the note of archiving this history.
Child welfare groups protesting its violent content, and its 52 episodes being below the
God hates speed.
required for American syndication. All this changed, however, in 1986, when university student David Lane Seltzer...
This whole story, when you were telling me about all this, I was like, this has to go in the video. Like, this is wild.
...reminded me of Speed Racer. So, from my dorm...
It's extremely wild.
...down the rights. I got to Alan Gleitzman, then to John Rochnowski, and eventually to Tatsunoko. I optioned the rights...
Also, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This guy was doing this in the mid-'80s. He wasn't doing this like today. It was like, oh, well, how do I talk to this Japanese company? you know?
Yeah, I'll just look up so-and-so. I'm like, no, you won't.
A deal was struck, which, after countless pre-production hangups, would eventually lead to the 2008 film produced by...
Did either of you see the 2008 Wachowski movie by chance?
Speed Racer from Tatsunoko, including the
I have not.
Yeah, neither have I.
That's unfortunate because I've heard good things about it, and I get this way about some things like amusement park rides and stuff. Like I don't know what I don't know what I'm gonna do because I legit wanted to watch it and I tried and I got motion sick trying to watch the movie, and I'm like, I really want to watch this, but I get sick doing it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to figure something out someday.
Yeah, I remember seeing trailers for the movie, and man, some of those tracks.
I mean, it's so cool what they did. I mean, like, just if you were like a film studies or film theory, like from an editing perspective, it's so cool a lot of the stuff they did. But as much as I can appreciate it on that level, whatever in my body or whatever, it's just like, nope, don't like this, gonna hurl.
Thanks for watching Weird Did You Know Anime, the anime trivia resource.
This is another episode where the outtakes that we had for this were fucking hilarious. And at one point in the future, I'm gonna get them animated by somebody because people will lose it.
Crud, I was hoping you forgot about that.
If you'd like to hear more from me, I've been known to occasionally ramble about anime titles, old and new, popular and niche, on my podcast, Who Cares About Anime?
Shout out to the Who Cares About Anime podcast.
Friends and peers in the viewing and critiquing world. Thanks for listening, and thank you for supporting Did You Know Anime?
Oh man, this one.
Did you know Outlaw Star takes...
He sounds just like he did in 1998.
This was obviously quite special for you, Michael, wasn't it?
Oh my God, I'm having a hard time not tearing up right now just watching it. It's the very first episode of Did You Know Anime ever was Outlaw Star, and in my fantasy mind, I said I want to get the guy. At that point, I didn't even know who it was. I mean, I was a super fan, but thinking about things that you don't know about or think about, it's hard to conceptualize that kind of thing. And I love that first episode a lot, but I always in the back of my mind, I was like, I want to get Gene Starwind. I want to work with Gene Starwind. And Bob did such a phenomenal job. And he nailed it. The first time I got the lines, I was just like, oh my God, I can't even, And Outlaw Star 2 is such an underrated series. If you're a 90s kid or, early 2000s, it's called young millennials, I guess we're called, or mid-millennials or whatever. Like, if you saw this series in the late 90s or on, Toonami, you fall in love with it. And, oh, man.
And, doing yourself a favor and watching the Blu-ray of it now, you certainly won't regret it, because in my opinion, I think Outlaw Star is the best Blu-ray remaster that Sunrise has put out from any of their old shows from this era.
Sunrise has, without a doubt, done the best Blu-ray remasters I've ever seen. Ever. Like, nobody even touches them. AIC gets pretty close, but the funny thing is they remastered Outlaw Star in 2010 for DVD, and it looks like Blu-ray then. They remastered it again for Blu-ray, and the quality is absurd. Like, that, it is phenomenal looking.
There is also a new story that most fans don't know about. In 2000, original
Also, Sunrise, for the love of God, please make a movie about this light novel. Please. You know, like, that'd be the coolest thing ever. Please.
Kevin, please. Yeah, really, I guess we'll just add that on our list of things to do. It's like, hey, who do we got to talk to like, please. Yeah, that, and funnily enough, all three of us talked at length about this on a certain podcast. But yeah, like that, it's right there. It's right there. We went into length at it there, and shout out to whoever recorded this. I mean, just, you know, Ito there talking about it. That warmed my heart first time I saw that.
I was well aware that even though I wanted to be hands-on.
Oh yeah, big shout outs to the person who made that interview, especially the time period, because those are very, very rare.
In the hands of the director. Outlaw Star has a number of Easter eggs and references. In the English dub of episode 23, Hot Springs Planet Tenrei, when Tobigera is walking up towards the wizard's temple after Jean, he can be heard briefly humming "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz. Also in episode 23, as Tobigera is caught in the train car filling...
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jeff is the voice of Tobigera in that episode.
Oh, Jeff Nimoy?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the listeners at home, I'll have to check that, but yeah, you know, Bob Buckles here, Gene Starwin, and is still doing, like, I think he's doing ADR stuff, he's directing stuff now, and so I think that's kind of how that happened, was Jeff there, so thank you, Jeff.
There was at one point allegedly an OVA in the works. After the release,
Another series that you should totally make an anime out of, Sunrise.
Though no official reason has ever been given, around this time there was turmoil at Katakawa involving two of the Katakawa brothers. According to Ito,
That'd be so cool. I mean, not only would you have the Outlaw Star selling point, but like, I don't mean this in a bad way, because things change over time, and that you know, you appreciate the art all the more there, but it's just like, sci-fi stuff does not look like this anymore. It doesn't. I mean, you know, Outlaw Star was pretty unique even when the manga and anime were coming out, but like, you know, you did that now, oh man, it would I think it would do great.
We're Did You Know Anime, the anime trivia resource. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and share this video with all the other pirates, Federation forces, and of course, outlaws out there.
And of course, if it wasn't already obvious that I was someone who came into Toonami and was heavily influenced by it, the final line in the script of the video where he repeats the line from Dreams. Oh, I had to do it. And it was beautiful. Oh, this is all you, boys.
Did you know? Mobile Fighter G Gundam was never meant to have a sequel. For many viewers, the tantalizing send-off "See You Again" Fight 14 implied that there may one day be.
Well, I guess I'll start out by saying G Gundam best Gundam.
However, Yasuhiro Imagawa, director of G Gundam, stated that he never liked doing
Sorry, not sorry.
I think a work is not worthy of work.
I agree.
Something to be told later on. You have to put everything into the current work that you're doing. That's not to say that Imagawa doesn't leave a few things open-ended for storytelling purposes.
I'll just say real quick here that, you know, we'd been wanting to do this for a while. I love it. Wes loves it. We started Michael on it. At one point, we'll have to continue our watch party someday. You know, let's get COVID conquered once and for all here, folks. But yeah, like this. I mean, those who know kind of thing about G Gundam. You know, why people have such a soft spot for it, and thank you, Toby, for doing this. I mean, that was a dream scenario there, because we all saw, as we see at the end of this video, the little inclusion in regular show, and I saw that Toby worked on that, and I'm like, shot in the dark here, but it was like, you're a G Gundam fan, aren't you? And he was like, yep. And so that's how that happened. So that's so cool that it got its little moment, right alongside something like Evangelion in a in a more modern show on Cartoon Network.
I totally forgot I drew on that whiteboard. Have you, G Gundam 2, have you seen this man Boogaloo? And then fucking get even more mad on the side about Lost if I saw that.
Yeah. Boy, Wes, speaking of the announcer there, you had a really cool idea there, but what happened there?
Well, we had tried to get his name escapes me at the moment as we're recording this, but we tried to get the gentleman who voices the announcer to narrate this episode, and he's just not really into the scene of doing this anymore. But originally I had the idea to get him to narrate this video and have him kick off the video in a very special way, much as he does in the show proper.
Yep, and hey, total respect to people on to doing other things, and thanks but no thanks kind of thing. So having Toby narrate this was so great. But oh my gosh, yeah, that was such a cool idea, Wes. And hey, that happens. They don't all materialize, but the idea of just like starting a Did You Know anime episode, like, let's get things started. Like we were all just I went nuts when you told me that idea. That'd be the coolest thing ever.
There were initial clashes between Imagawa and the sponsors. At first, Imagawa thought that some things, like making Earth look like a giant boxing ring, were stupid and worried that Gundams based on nationality might be offensive. Japanese reactions to Gundam's first...
It's really interesting, some of these, like, I think sometimes you get that with folks doing dubbing or anime dubbing, and, I think he was from radio, and then, it's interesting just seeing what people kind of go on. I think the voice of Domon, I don't think he's acting anymore. I think he's like the medical field or something like that, and it's like, oh, that's cool, he's just living his best life. But it's wild, you never would have guessed that, because it's just such an incredible performance that I think most people are like, no, that's Domon Kashu.
Yeah, I believe he's a surgeon now up in Canada.
I guess he better be practicing piloting Grizzly Gundam then.
I want to know the person who doesn't think that Tequila Gundam is the greatest fucking Gundam in the world.
I don't think I want to know that person. We got nothing to talk about. It's like, Carl, is that all you came to say? Are we done here?
I mean, he's got a mustache, a sombrero. What else does he need?
I mean, he's got, like, his weapon is that tool that they use, like, on the actual tequila plants, and he's, spiked like that. Like, it's so cool. And hats off to whoever at Right Stuff, Nozomi, wherever, who had the idea in that awesome Blu-ray set they had. Speaking of awesome, we've done a lot of promoting this this commentary, but they're good sets. It comes with the Tequila Gundam shot glass. That's absolutely probably the most fun anime set I've ever bought. Well, speaking again of brilliant ideas, take it away, Wes.
It's a shame we had to make this one in the manner that we did, but I'm glad we made it, and Also, Mike, I want to apologize again to you and for the manner in which I broke the news to you about his passing. Long story short, I asked Mike if he had heard the news regarding Miura and Berserk, and he said he had not, and he had gotten all excited, like, oh, there's a new series coming out or something, isn't there? And I just said, no, he's dead.
It's really hard to even get through this video now. Like, even when I was working on it, you know, when Wes told me, I just, like, kind of went into shock a little bit. Like, I was like, hey, when you think about people who are, like, celebrities, right? Like, there's very few people that have really, really gotten me. Another one was Robin Williams. You know, like, he was such a big inspiration to me. But Miura was as well. I mean, it's I still can't believe it. Like, he was the guy who was supposed to live forever, you know? Like, Berserk was one of those things that was just so, you know, like, it lasted so long, but it was like, oh, it's because it's going to go on forever. It's quote unquote never going to end, you know? Like, even now, just, like, going through it, I'm trying my best to keep it together, because he had a huge inspiration on me, you know? And Berserk, the 97 series is my favorite anime of all time, period. Me and John watched it at the same time, and for the longest time, Evangelion was my favorite. And then as we were going through Berserk 97, I just, like, every episode was just so magnificently done and so beautiful that by the end of it, by the time we got done, I was like, this is the best dub I've ever heard. This is the best anime I've ever seen. It has no equal. Miura has no equal as far as I'm concerned. There's no manga and no manga author on this planet ever, not even Tezuka, nobody can do what Kentaro Miura did, you know. And going back to a fact that was at the beginning of this video, Berserk sold more than anything else Dark Horse Comics has ever released, anime or manga or domestic release. Like, it beat out Hellboy, a movie, 2 movies, 3 movies that have made hundreds of millions of dollars. It beat the original comic that's based on. Like, it's so this video, when Wes brought it up to me, I mean, I knew immediately that we had to do it. And getting hold and working with Mark and Carrie and Kevin again, it's beyond a dream come true, because those are the voices for me for all those characters, and they were such an important part about making Berserk as good as it was. The anime, at least. The manga obviously is its own thing and is in a whole nother level, but there's not enough words in the English dictionary, for me at least, to be able to just truly describe how Berserk has affected my life.
With the Dragon Slayer, that someone with pro wrestler muscles might be able to swing it once or twice. Thus did I come up with the appearance of Guts. That very same year,
and, you know, watching everybody else react the way that they did, and, you know, really feeling the love. And for everybody who commented on the video as well, you know, thank you for commenting and, you know, sharing your experiences, because there were so many heartfelt experiences in there. And it's just like, this series touched a lot of people.
Did you know, though the series is beloved by fans, it became known for going on long hiatuses, which in turn has caused some parts of the manga to last for an incredibly long amount of time. The most notorious of which, known infamously to fans as the Boat Arc, started in 2006 and lasted well over 8 years, finally ending in 2015.
And we are so grateful to everyone, and Kevin, years ago now, starting off this season on such a strong note. and Carrie, she actually helped behind the scenes on this one considerably as well. And so it's a privilege, any one of them. But the tone of this particular episode of Did You Know Anime, Wes, you came in with the idea, and Michael, you were saying that, and then you guys, let me in on it, and we just had that, now it's got to be all three of them. It's got to be all three of them, and I'm just so grateful to them, and I'm so thankful that it worked out. I mean, it's a beautiful tribute. So you're editing, great work, Mike, and you guys were handling the script, great work, and I think a fitting tribute.
Miura said he would rather miss a deadline or two. If that meant being able to get
Of the few that I've worked on, I think this one will probably be my all-time favorite. I like I said earlier, it's a shame we had to do this one in the way we did in the first place, but I'm glad that we were able to get Carrie, Mark, and Kevin to be a part of this, just because we wanted the Band of the Hawk to be in on it if they could, and they came through.
He died doing what he wanted. No matter what, right? I bet he was happy.
Hi, this is Carrie Karanen, and I play Casca in the English language dub of Berserk. Casca was my very first anime role, and it introduced me to dubbing, which has become a huge part of my life, and all the people on that project have become lifelong friendships. It will always be one of my greatest honors to have voiced Casca. I know how much this series means to me and to the fans, and there was so much story still to tell. I think we're all going to miss him a lot.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Mark D. Raison, the artist formerly known as Guts. Or wait, maybe it's the other way around. Either way, happy trails, Miura, and thanks for taking us on this awesome adventure.
That was really nice of them to share that at the end in their own way, and so just because Kevin didn't, that's everybody deals with things in their own way, and so that was incredible hearing that was Carrie's first anime dub role. Did you know? It's like, no, I did not know, and I would have lost money on that bet. I mean, like, really? And yeah, I you always thought maybe it was a bit of an exaggeration or something. Maybe if you heard such sentiments, but even though I'm not an artist, I'm nothing in that adjacent field to what Miura spent his life doing, and clearly had talent and passion for doing it. Never met the guy. It's probably not even 6 degrees of separation. Probably more than that, separating it. But I really do just kind of feel just this privilege that I walked the earth at the same time as Kentaro Miura.
Usually at the end of a season of Did You Know Anime, there's I usually would put up a poll to see what the best episode of the season was. But I'm not going to do that this time, because that episode, in my mind, is untoppable for a number of different reasons. And I don't want to, also, not just because it's a tribute, but it has such special meaning to me. And, I will say that I'm incredibly grateful, sincerely grateful to Kevin, Carrie, and Mark for participating in the video, and, saying the things at the end that Carrie and Mark said. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that, John. You know, just being able to be here, be around Berserk when it was happening, and just knowing that Miura was like working on it. It's a, you know, kind of sounds like a, you know, possibly a weird fan thing, but it's you know, I remember a mutual friend of ours, like I remember when Wes was first getting into Berserk, and I remember the first time. I remember when everybody got off the boat the first time, and everybody was freaking out in 2015. And I remember Wes and you and a friend of ours were freaking out because she's like, "He got off the boat. He finally got off the boat." And you know, there's been a slight translation difference, obviously, in the official, you know, Dark Horse version and the version that came out. But I'll never forget when that first translated page that came out was like, "Oh yeah, that wasn't very long on the boat," or whatever, and the internet got lit on fire, and just that was, you know, it moved people. It was a titan in so many different ways, and Miura was so different than so many creators out there. You know, he was so very humble. He wasn't a recluse, but he wasn't, you know, he wasn't flashy. You know, he didn't do the kind of things that like Isayama would do, or he was just there, and he was always, you know, there was that picture, that famous picture of him from the one magazine, where he's got that kind of smile. It's not quite, you know, like a mischievous smile, but it's also not quite a super happy smile. It's just like that's the picture of Miura that I think everybody recognizes. And you know, working on that last part of the video, I remember just thinking like, I want people to just understand like how important Miura was, especially because it's not necessarily just about Berserk. It's about Miura and how gifted he was and how special he was, and there'll never be anybody like him. And I've talked about it a lot. Wes, is there anything that you want to add, how that affected you?
Well, I mean, much like you said, a mutual friend of the three of ours, he got me into Berserk right around the time in the manga they had finally gotten off the boat, and then I got you two into it not too much long after that, and started with the 97 TV series, and then I started reading the manga, and then I watched Berserk 2016 and 2017, and you know, I had always heard about Berserk even before our friend Charles had you know, gotten us into it, and you know, I knew it had been around for a while, and it was just kind of a surreal feeling to be like, you know, wow, I got into this thing at the perfect time. You know, they're off the boat, the manga's really getting going again, there's heavy story elements happening, and you know, what the future may hold for Berserk, we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. But much like you boys have said, it was just kind of a crazy feeling to think that I walked the earth the same time as Kentaro Miura, and now he's no longer with us. And you know, Berserk, it's it'll never be topped. You know, it is the standard bearer for what dark fantasy is now, especially in anime. But you know, you look at everything that's gone on to inspire things in Final Fantasy XIV, Dark Souls, the list goes on and on. Berserk, it'll stand the test of time. It has stood the test of time, and you know, thank you, Kentaro Miura, for everything you gave to us, and Mike and John, just thank you boys for humoring me on the idea of making this video and getting all three of the voice actors that we did for this video, because you know, we usually, for stuff like this, trying to get a voice actor for a video is like landing a white whale, and call me Ishmael, I guess, because we landed 3, and you know, Mark Carrie, Kevin, thank all three of you for doing this. It was a great honor.
Isn't it funny where entertaining or humoring an idea can take you?
Now I am deathly afraid. Well, that's not true. The sin has been forgiven, but now I have a slight... I'm slightly more afraid when Wes messages me now, because I'm like, oh no! What bad thing is going to drop on my doorstep? But no, I mean, that's... You know, you'd never expect something like that, and, you know, even something like that, you know, you can would never think in a million years what that would do. But this episode, I think, was special in many, many, many different ways. And, you know, coming back out of COVID, which was a whole nother, you know, can of worms for the entire world, it felt good making this video, even though it was for a very, very somber, you know, event that happened. So, you know, again, thank you to the three voice talent, Kevin, Mark, and Carrie, for being a part of Berserk, for working with us. You know, thank you, John. Thank you, Wes. And thank you all for listening and, you know, dealing with a hiatus very similar to Miura's with Digino Anime. And I can't guarantee that won't happen again at some point in the future, but just know that when something does come out from Digino Anime, we put our heart and soul into it as much as we can. And thank you to all the people that have stuck around with us for 5, 6, 7 years now. Seeing some of those tags, those little icons now that can show up on people's names that are like subscribed for 7 years. It's wild. So thank you all. See you next time, and stay gold.